I want to urge Nigerians to continue to watch Osasu show, which will be very informative.
Keep watching Osasu shows. As a matter of fact, it's the best show so far, so good.
Continue to watch the Osasu show.
I want you to keep watching the Osasu show because it is special.
Keep watching the Osasu show. She's absolutely brilliant.
The Osasu show, anchored by the new improved Chief Osasu Ibidedion. I recommend it to each and every one of us.
I'm on the set of the Osasu show. Keep watching the Osasu show.
I want to call on Nigerians, home and abroad, and international community to keep watching Osasu show. Fantastic show for that matter, anchored by a thoroughbred professional who has traveled far and wide to bring governance closest to the people.
Hi Tosas, Merry Christmas. Christmas, also known as the Feast of the Nativity, is an annual festival commemorating the birth of Jesus Christ. It's observed primarily on December 25th as a religious and cultural celebration amongst billions of people around the world. On today's episode, my crew and I will take you on a journey of our work year in review, and will later share some of the things we are thankful for, which obviously you, our esteemed viewers, are on top of the list. Random fact, before we delve into today's subject matter, did you know the leap year 2020 birthed the second palindrome date, 02/02/2020? The first palindrome date was 909 years ago, 11/11/11/11. The next one will occur 101 years from now, 12/12/21/21. Maybe this is why 2020 has been a year of a kind. I mean, it started with the yays and cheers, the prayers and thanksgiving. We made our New Year resolutions filled with so much hope and aspirations. But as the saying goes, man proposes, but God disposes. No one expected to be locked down for the majority of the year due to a global pandemic. No one expected most of the events that took place in 2020. However, we must be thankful to God that we're alive to even have this conversation today. So without further delay, on today's episode, we'll be reviewing all the highlights that happened in 2020. Take a look. Welcome back to the Osasu Show. Joining me now is Mr. Frank Umba, the first PRO of the police force. Thank you so much for joining us in today's program.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What would you attribute to the rising insecurity in the nation as of today? I mean, the Nigerian Security Tracker, which is the Council on Foreign Relations, recently released a damning report on the police force and the other security agencies that since 2011 till date 2020, the cumulative deaths of Nigerians has increased per thousands.
First of all, let me admit to the fact that indeed there are security challenges in this country. But just as we are facing this enormous challenges in this part of the world, there also appears to be a general trend towards the globalization of crime. As a matter of fact, Nigeria is not alone in these challenges. The world must be ready to also deal with the negative impacts of globalization. As we see, Nigeria is facing its own share of these challenges. But in our part of the world, the challenges are further exacerbated by some deep-rooted factors. Factors such as unemployment, factors such as educational, economic, and political exclusion, factors such as the widening gap between the rich and the haves and the have-not, and then the endemic impact of poverty. And so, while the law enforcement community, led principally by the police, are doing what is necessary to combat these crimes, our political leaders must also be involving and implementing social intervention programs that will also help to deal with the root causes of some of this problem.
Your Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Edo State, Honorable Philip Shaibu, welcome to today's program.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. Your Excellency, the coronavirus has been contained to a reasonable degree in Edo State. Yet, I noticed that the governor never really fully locked down the state. What do you attribute to the setting level of success you've been able to ascertain in the state?
Yeah. We are in Edo State. We are very lucky that we have a system in place even before the COVID-19 was pandemic, an incident case came to the country. We have been battling with Lassa fever in Edo State. We took advantage of our previous training on how to manage Lassa fever, and we have to retrain our staffs and check first. While other states are locking down, other countries are talking about lockdown, we look at the implication of lockdown, knowing fully well that Nigeria does not have a social system where you can collate all the names of those vulnerable people in the society. So we look at our own state and its peculiar nature. We check how many of our people are self-employed. And from this data that we collected, we also check how many of them depend on daily livelihood. And looking at data, we discover that about 35% of these persons, when we do a general lockdown, there will be crisis. And we also need to cut the chain of the pandemic. So what we did was to strengthen the contact tracing team. We increased this number, trained them, and retrain all those other teams that we already have in place for contact tracing of Lassa fever, and decided to invest in testing. We discovered that we needed to test more to understand the trend of the spread. We also needed to increase our contact tracing team, and also decided that face masks was desirable and compulsory to also cut the chain, because we discovered that you can move around to the extent that you can follow the protocol, wearing your mask, washing your hands regularly, and also making sure you keep distance. Social distance is not just about 2 meters, 3 meters. Social distance has to also do with your attitude to life. If you must leave your home, it must be extremely important. That means social distance, you should also remain at home if it is not necessary for you to go out.
Honorable Minister of Transportation, Right Honorable Chibuke Rotimi Amechi, welcome to the Osasu Show.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. We've heard from the Presidential Task Force on the reopening guidelines for the airspaces, interstate travel, but we haven't quite heard a detailed guideline for the train services. What are some of the measures that you have put in place to reopen the train services?
We're not in a hurry to reopen the train services. We're actually not in a hurry. I had a conversation with the chairman that's in charge of the technical activities of COVID committee. And I did say, economically it's not wise. First, you have about 88 passengers per coach. And for you to run social distancing on any of those coaches, then you have to do about 40 passengers per coach. You're making a total loss. Currently, we make about 120 million naira per month, right? And we spend
at full capacity.
At full capacity.
Okay.
And we spend about 90 million naira per month. Now, if you run at 40 passengers per coach, then you will not be making 120, you'll be making like 60 million naira and you will still be spending 90. So we're back to making a loss. And then you will have to then be subsidizing the operational activities. We don't have that kind of money now. That's one. Two, in terms of health, when I hear people say, oh, well, there's this equipment to bring in that you spray and clean up anybody who's going to enter the train to make sure they don't have COVID and all that. And I ask the question, what about the asymptomatic patients? What happens to them? They will not be positive to fever. They will enter the train. Just one person can infect the 40 persons in the coach. And the doors are open. If he moves around the entire coaches, the chances are that he could infect others. So until I'm clear about how we will not infect people, because before the COVID, we were moving 4,300 passengers per day. Now, even if you bring it down to 2,300 passengers per day, that means you'll be infecting 2,000 persons per day. That won't be easy. Certainly not won't be easy. But we're looking at, we're going to hold a meeting next week to see how possible it is to travel without infecting so many persons. One of the ways is that it will be mandatory that everybody must wear a mask. We increase the number of policemen we have in the train so that can be enforced. Everybody must own and have hand sanitizer, not just we cleaning you up at the airport.
So the people who are going to be riding the train must come in with their own hand sanitizer. Is that going to be provided by government?
No.
They have to purchase it
themselves. Because the intention is that, look, it's about life. You have to stay alive. No matter how much a hand sanitizer costs, you have to stay alive. The intention is that as you walk into the train, in every 15, 20 minutes, please, you need to use that hand sanitizer to clean up your hands and all that. Because you could touch the train, the chairs, you could touch so many things and all that. Then there is no way you will remove the face mask. The police must enforce that face mask. Until you get out of the train and out of the station, you must wear your face mask. What happens after you've left the station, that is not my business, and neither is it the business of the Railway, Nigerian Railway Corporation.
Welcome to the Real Lives, Real Lessons session on the gendered response of leaders to the coronavirus pandemic. My name is Osasu Symposium, the Chief Executive Officer of Pan-African Television Network, located here in Abuja, Nigeria, TOS TV Network. I am delighted to be moderating today's session with two astute professionals, Prime Minister Julia Gillard and Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the co-authors of Women and Leadership. Thank you so much for making time out of your very busy schedules to be here today.
Thank you, Osasu. Thank you.
You're most welcome. I'll start with you, Julia. So the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us that leadership is important. So how important is female leadership in this pandemic era?
I think it's been very important, and I was drawn to a research report that came out a couple of days ago from two UK universities, and they've actually analysed now the 19 nations led by women against more than 190 nations overall. The fact that the statistic is 19 out of more than 190 should trouble us, shows us how few nations are led by women. But they've done quite a deep dive and shown that the nations led by women have had fewer deaths from the coronavirus, and that is because women tended to be quite risk averse and to lock their countries down quite early. So they took dramatic and early action to combat the transmission of the virus. So it's interesting to see that effectiveness of female leaders coming to the fore at a time like this.
And speaking of that, women's leadership in times of crisis, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, you were finance minister here in Nigeria for 2 terms, and you brought the economy out of recession. Can you speak to me about the economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on women in particular? How does this affect our fight for the United Nations Global Goals for Sustainable Development, particularly goal number 5, gender equality?
Well, thank you, Osasu. The issue of the impact of the pandemic on women is a very important issue from different dimensions and depending on what part of the world you're in. But there's one thing that comes out
that women, many of the frontline workers are women. And so the nurses in hospitals in most countries are predominantly women. So these are the people whose lives are put at risk when they take care of people in the pandemic. We find that on the African continent, 75% of nurses are women. So that just shows you the kind of risks that they're exposed to. There's another dimension to this pandemic with respect to women, and that is, in fact, two more dimensions. One is gender-based violence. Many studies done by the UN has found that gender-based violence has increased in many parts of the world. Calls to hotlines by women who are being abused have significantly increased because in lockdowns there is nowhere to go and they're locked in with their abusive spouses. So this is a dimension that is very, very difficult and which governments have to pay attention to.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 4th edition of the Osasu Symposium. It's a beautiful day to be here. Today is Wednesday, the 9th of September. The time is 10 a.m. here in Nigeria's federal capital, Abuja.
It's an honor to address you at the 4th edition of the Osasu Symposium. The world, as we all know, was taken aback by the global pandemic that struck most nations earlier this year. Words are not enough to describe the havoc caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, especially to families who lost loved ones. My prayer is that the Almighty God will comfort the bereaved and give those of us whose lives were spared a rethink to how we operate not only in business, but purposefully across board. The theme of this year's symposium is Rethinking Africa.
In the world in which we are, rethinking Africa means that we have to take a second look at Africa's possibilities in the world today, especially the world as it's going to be shaped after the COVID crisis. This requires us to rethink the continent's future. And first of all, we have to recognize that we have to consciously own and shape our continent's future.
I am really devastated. I'm heartbroken because the impression that I get just watching what is happening across Africa is that we have lost a lot of the gains that we have made since 1995 when we went to Beijing, in as far as gender equality is concerned. I am thinking that the world will never be the same again. So we need to move very quickly to be innovative in providing education to our children, in ending poverty, in achieving gender equality. We must rethink on what we can do to make sure that there's some normalcy beyond COVID-19, when COVID-19 is gone. And in rethinking Africa, I believe that it will start with political will. Governments across Africa must decide that they are going to include women and include girls in that recovery program.
African nations want development. And for you to develop as a nation, the governance structure is critical. Who manages the affairs of the states? Who manages the affairs of the nations? And in the democratic setting, that these people are elected, it is very, very critical that you elect the right person.
Going forward, we as a continent must now define ourselves. We must not allow any civilization to define us. The Caucasians, the British defined us. The French defined us. The Portuguese defined us. The Germans defined us. The Arabs defined us. The Spaniards defined us. The Belgians defined us. Everybody has been in the business of defining us. But we must now exorcise that ghost and embrace our own self-definition. And as I define Africa, I define her as the mother continent, the home of civilization, the cradle of civilization. And this is the time for her leaders, her young men and women, to rise up.
Children! Yes, Auntie! You are welcome to the Osasu Show Foundation. We are so happy to have you here today. You're welcome. I want you all to know that today is a special day that we've created just for you. You are here today to be celebrated, you are cared for, and you are appreciated.
My name is Sefi Amadou. I am primary 6 now going to JS1. I'm very happy today and I'm very appreciative to our section foundation. Thank you. I want to be a doctor because I want to help some people that they don't have money, and I want to be a doctor to do good things in our village. In our village we don't have good hospital, so that's why I want to be a doctor and I want to very confident.
My name is Elizabeth Nuhum. I'm in JSS2. I'm very happy today. Thank you, Osasu Foundation. I'm very happy.
My name is Abubakar Kalba. I'm happy for them. Thank you so much.
DJ, 1, 2, drop it, let's go. Okay, let's go. Do I have my judges, please? Let's look at them and know the best dancer. Come on. Clap for him, clap for her.
What we try to do is basically to put a smile on their faces, to remind them that they are loved, they are appreciated, and they are cared for. Every child, irrespective of their social stratification, irrespective of their social class, should know that they matter. They matter to us at the Osasu Show Foundation. They matter to the wider populace of Nigerians. So that's why we're here today, to celebrate them, to let them know that God loves them and we love them as well. In the nearest future, we're looking at making this bigger and better. Most of the children here are under our scholarship scheme. We believe that education is the most powerful tool you can give to any individual. We believe that if you equip a child with quality education, he or she can become anything they want to be. So most of the children here today are under the Osasu Show Foundation scholarship scheme. We will continue to empower children, not just with food in their bellies and waters to drink and clothes on their back, which is important, which is a basic human right. However, we focus on quality education because we know that the opportunities for you to succeed as a child who's coming from next to nothing, juxtaposed to a child who's coming with everything, is education. So if you can empower the child from the lower income homes and empower the children from the higher income homes to that quality education, then they both can have an equal playing field to strive to become anything they want to be.
Merry Christmas!
Indeed, it's been quite a year that made palindrome and global pandemic history. The good, the bad, the ugly, all encompassed into 1 year. We sincerely mourn those who lost loved ones to COVID-19, insurgency and insecurity, even the NSAS protests and other natural causes. We pray for a happier, more peaceful 2021. For us at TOS TV Network, we look forward to serving you better through shows like this. We promise to continue to deliver factual, informative, educative, and entertaining content to you via this television platform and our digital network, tostvnetwork.com. Make sure you follow us across our social media handles at TOSTV Network on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter so you don't miss a thing. Again, Merry Christmas. Remember, Jesus is the reason we're alive to celebrate this season. We love you and God bless you.